Look, prison is meant to be a punishment, but there are some prisons around the world so brutal and inhumane that you'd be lucky to get out alive. North Korea operates a series of re-education facilities that are actually hard labor camps, where prisoners' days are filled with grueling physical work and unrelenting indoctrination in government ideology. Those inmates are eventually released, but those that need more ideology are sent to a total control zone. One of these is Camp 14. Considering that this is North Korea, where information is tightly controlled, all we know about Camp 14 comes from the very few who've made it out alive, like Shin Dong-yuk.
I wasn't even a person per se, not a human being. I was an animal.
Shin was born into an incarcerated family and escaped Camp 14 at the age of 23. And Shin's story is harrowing.
He says he escaped Camp 14, climbing over a fellow inmate as he lay dying on an electric fence.
According to Shin, order at Camp 14 is maintained with a combination of fear, dire consequences for misbehavior, and a long list of rules. Inmates are encouraged to turn on each other if they see violations. Family even turns against family.
Later, both my mother and brother were publicly executed because of me.
Any prisoners suspected of violations may disappear from the general population for days to be tortured, for example with fire, and public executions are a regular occurrence. Guards can be ordered to hurt or kill prisoners on command, but they're also free to act on their own accord. As a result, they frequently beat, kill, and sexually assault the inmates in their charge. To be fair, there are those out there that question Shin's story, and not just those on a North Korean payroll. He did admit to embellishing portions of the story for his book, and he may not have been in the infamous Camp 14, but that doesn't make the conditions there any better.
They just throw them in there and they beat them and drown them, electrocute them, stab them, and then just kick them until they're dead.
San Pedro, a prison in the Bolivian capital of La Paz, began as a progressive experiment in the name of prison reform, but it quickly evolved into an overcrowded, harrowing mini-society characterized by a deadly class system. San Pedro was built to accommodate about 600 people, specifically families, operating under the idea that it's harmful to separate convicted criminals from their spouses and children. So they sent everyone to prison, which seems from the outside to be a horrific idea, and no surprise, it hasn't worked out. San Pedro became a walled city of 3,000 where the innocent are subject to the same abuse and horrors as the convicts. In another bizarre twist on the whole idea of prison, there are essentially no guards whatsoever here, only a few patrolling the perimeter.
The prisoners have completely free reign inside.
That's no exaggeration. When it was examined by a documentarian in 2016, San Pedro was a dictatorship run by an inmate named Victor Hugo Mendoza. He reportedly headed up a delegate council that set out a military-like police unit to enforce his will. Prisoners on the good side of the people in charge live in a nicer, safer part of the prison with luxuries like private bathrooms and cable television. The other inmates pay the bosses rent out of money earned from low-wage work on the grounds. That's right, inmates pay fellow inmates to be allowed a cell in which to live.
If you got money, you're in an apartment, but if you don't, you're on the concrete.
The elite in the prison also reportedly make money running San Pedro's marijuana and cocaine trades.
We have all the drugs in here that you can get outside.
The Philippines' Manila City Jail is designed to hold around 1,200 inmates. You want to guess how many they can squeeze in there? Did you guess anywhere from 3,000 to 4,000 prisoners are crammed inside, using every spare surface for sleeping? If so, you got it. As many as 6 men may spend the night in a stairwell or in a cell bathroom on wet tile floors. The jail is reportedly so hot, humid, and poorly ventilated that the air feels heavy. The tightly packed prison, named one of the most crowded on the planet by the World Prison Brief, is the direct result of a government push to arrest drug offenders. Inmates with money can buy their way into a kubel, a relatively wide-open plywood cubicle occupied by just a couple of prisoners. Technically, Manila City Jail isn't a prison and the inmates aren't convicts. They're mostly citizens accused of crimes who are awaiting trial. If found guilty, they'll be moved to a penitentiary. If they survive jail, that is. In the center of Bangkok stands Kwang Central Prison, ironically nicknamed the Bangkok Hilton. At any given time, it's home to 6,000 inmates serving sentences of at least 33 years. There are around 500 death row inmates, and executions are regularly carried out on site. Prisoners die by lethal injection. Inmates are forced to wear leg irons for the first 3 months inside to prevent them from killing themselves. You heard that right. Kwang is so overcrowded that as many as 12 prisoners may occupy a 120 square foot cell.
You're always touching someone in the room. It's really hard.
The squalid conditions are made worse by germ-infested tap water, bed bugs, and roaches. Unsurprisingly, infection spreads easily. Inmates eat once a day, a tiny portion of something like rice and vegetables mixed with rocks. The threat of death is constant at Bang Kwang. Untreated HIV runs rampant, spread primarily by heroin use. Bang Kwang is so helplessly crowded that the prisoners are essentially free to do whatever they want, including buying, selling, and using drugs. They also run a casino, and unpaid debts are met with knife and crowbar attacks. And that's just from the other prisoners. Overwhelmed guards routinely dole out near-fatal beatings. Some of the world's most dangerous gangs are held in El Salvador's jungle at the Center for Terrorism Confinement, or CECOT. MS-13 and Barrio 18 have long controlled the drug trade in El Salvador, and after an uptick in violence in 2022, the federal government captured all the gang members it could and locked them up together, many without trial, in this purpose-built prison. With a capacity of 40,000, CECOT is half full as of 2025, but it's still crowded. Meat is banned. Inmates eat beans or pasta, and that's about it. They leave their multiple occupancy cells for a maximum of 30 minutes a day to go to a video link-up room for hearing or to exercise in a hallway. Residents sleep on steel beds without mattresses. They shower in their cells, drink water from a plastic collection barrel, and are watched 24/7 over closed-circuit TV. CECOT is staffed by 1,000 guards, 600 troops, and 250 riot police, with no visitors allowed. ADX Florence is a supermax federal prison in rural Colorado. Referred to as the Alcatraz of the Rockies, no inmate has ever escaped Florence, which must be a bummer for drug kingpin El Chapo, sent there when he was recaptured after tunneling out of a Mexican prison. Inmates are barely allowed to speak with each other and have almost no communication with the guards. That's because ADX Florence is on permanent lockdown. Prisoners spend 23 hours a day in soundproof 84-square-foot cells. Each one is outfitted with a desk, bunk, shelf, and stool, all made out of concrete, plus a steel toilet and sink. There's a window at chest level, but it's 4 inches wide and faces nothing but the sky by design. That way, prisoners can't figure out where they are by triangulating landmarks. There's nowhere to run. Prisoners pass the time sleeping if they can overcome insomnia and claustrophobia, reading, exercising in place, and writing with crayon-sized rubber pens that can't be used as weapons. The list of inmates is like a who's who of bad guys from the last 30 years. Too many to mention, but there's some faces you might recognize. As of 2025, Arthur Road Jail in Mumbai, built to house 999 prisoners, has a population of more than 3,400 inmates. In some of the barracks, 250 people are stuffed into spaces designed for 49. When an inmate gets up to use the restroom, they lose their bed, while anyone without a bunk sleeps on the floor, jammed together. Prisoners at Arthur Road get just one daily meal, a spoonful of lentils and uncooked rice floating in tepid water. The one pleasure inmates are allowed is smoking, which causes its own set of problems, besides the whole cancer thing. Prisoners routinely burn their feet on discarded cigarette butts. Turns out they don't have a lot of ashtrays, and there's a constant cloud of smoke in the air. Inmates often break out in violent fights, but the guards are equally dangerous, quelling skirmishes with brutal force. In 2021, to break up a fight between two cellmates, guards attacked the entire cell, injuring 40 people with wooden poles and razors. In the middle of Zahedan, Iran, stands Zahedan Central Prison, where 3 to 5 prisoners occupy one-person cells. The facility was built to house a few hundred inmates, but holds over 2,000. 8 of its wards are for the general inmate population, while Ward 9 holds only political prisoners and is operated without oversight. Again, this is by design. In Ward 9, protesters and so-called enemies of the state receive the cruelest treatment, including torture. Inmates are regularly subjected to sleep and food deprivation and forced to endure extreme cold as a form of punishment. Those who protest with hunger strikes are chained up and beaten with pipes and batons. Inmates deemed to be the least cooperative are sent to solitary confinement for long periods where they live in cells teeming with insects with no light or restroom facilities. In 2022, the U.S. Treasury Department's Office of Foreign Assets Control sanctioned past and present wardens of Zahedan Prison for their excessively violent and politically targeted behavior. This includes multiple executions of the Baluchi, an ethnic minority in Iran, as well as torture of prisoners, general mistreatment, and denial of medical care. In Russia, those convicted of the most heinous crimes will likely be sent to serve a life sentence at Black Dolphin Prison in southwest Russia's Orenburg Oblast region. The prison is named for the prisoner-made sculpture of a curiously free sea creature outside of the entrance. Once inside the walls, the outlook is far more grim. Every aspect of life at the facility is designed to rob the prisoner of energy, dignity, and inner resolve. Inmates live 2 to a cell, although the most violent offenders room solo. Even so, cellmates are forbidden from communicating beyond stopping each other from trying to escape.
It is so easy to turn into an animal here, but staying human, that's harder.
They're locked in their cells for most of the day and are required to spend 16 hours on their feet, leaving only for exercise at the guard's discretion in a steel mesh cage. The facility is under 24-hour camera surveillance, and guards make rounds every 15 minutes. During exercise breaks, guards search cells for contraband. Black Dolphin prisoners are meant to feel constantly tired and listless. They're fed just enough soup to survive, and the temperature is kept barely livable. Resistance feels futile. For transfers, guards blindfold prisoners, cuff their hands behind their backs, and force them to walk bent at the waist. Any response beyond "yes, sir" can result in severe punishment. Dug out of a hole in the ground near the sea and without much infrastructure, Black Beach Central Prison in Equatorial Guinea is so hot and humid that it's unbearable most of the time. It houses around 800 prisoners, but only about 2/3 of them have actually been convicted of a crime in a court of law. The rest have been arrested for petty crimes but can't afford to bribe police officers or are being held at the pleasure of corrupt government officials with whom they disagree. Prisoners can sit in Black Beach Central Prison for years awaiting trial. And regardless of their judicial status, inmates moving into the Baghdad unit for women or the Jabolo unit for men are savagely beaten by guards as part of a violent initiation rite. The abysmal sanitation at the Black Beach Central Prison results in frequent outbreaks of illness. 2 poorly maintained washrooms serve the entire prison population, while toilets and cells are used for personal waste without running water. That, combined with food that's been described as rotten and inedible, leads to frequent outbreaks of dysentery. In 2019, 9 prisoners died in an outbreak. The bodies were left in the cells for hours. Sleep doesn't offer much solace either. No beds are provided, so residents bed down on a scrap cardboard laid on sharp metal mesh floors. Cereso No. 3 is a state prison in the Mexican city of Juarez, headquarters of the powerful cutthroat Juarez cartel. Cereso No. 3 has frequently been the object of the cartel's wrath, making for a prison experience characterized by violence and fear. On January 1, 2023, armed cartel associates stormed the prison to free Kingpin Ernesto El Neto Piñon de la Cruz. A total of 30 prisoners escaped, but in the standoff, 3 guards and 7 inmates were shot to death. Then in August 2024, infighting among incarcerated members of the rival Sinaloa cartel led to a broader fight in which 7 people were stabbed with homemade shivs. In 2025, seemingly to prevent another violent prison riot, 120 inmates, all members of the Doblados gang, were moved out of Cereso No. 3. The perceived danger to staff and other inmates was so great that it took 400 uniformed service personnel to make the transfer.